guys, Iron Dragon here. Um, Doing something a little new here. So recently over the week, over I think it was like a week or two ago, I went and saw Black Panther, and I decided, why don't I give you guys, my thoughts on the movie. Open a bit of a discussion with you guys and see what you guys thought about it as well. Um, so we can call this sort of a review of sorts, just kind of giving my perspective on the movie. In the background, you guys can see I'm playing some Gears of War 4, kind of going back and revisiting this game again. Uh, haven't played it in a while, so I'm trying to get back into it. Um, so let's start with my thoughts as far as this movie goes. Um, because I have to start off by saying that it was interesting to see uh, where they ended up taking this movie, especially because it was interesting to hear that they were going to make this movie to begin with. Um, because I initially thought that it was that Black Panther as a character was just going to be sort of a one off like cameo appearance in the uh, Civil War movie for Captain America. So I was happy to see that that wasn't the case, and that they were going all in and putting him in his own standalone film, which which I was happy to see happen, because I was really looking forward to this, uh, especially seeing what they had planned and what they planned on doing with him as a character. So it was really cool once they announced that, and to see the finished product behind it. I was really happy with that. Um, Now I have to say that this is probably I would say this is probably one of my favorite out of like all of the Marvel films that I've seen. This is probably one of my favorites. Um, Strictly based off of like my enjoyment throughout the movie. Um, like I've had a couple of Marvel movies that I've gone and seen, and it's like I'll like parts of it, and then like the rest of it is just like I don't know why just spent money to see this movie. Um, and unfortunately, that does happen a lot with a lot of Marvel films, and I feel like that sucks. But I mean, it's just kind of the way that things kind of go with some of those movies, like because I feel like a lot of the time they try to do what they can to please everyone, and that's just impossible. Like you're not going to be able to please the super Marvel fan that's read all of the comics, and you're also not going to be able to please all of the casual fans that don't really care too much about backstory, or the stories that have been written in the comics and stuff like that. So they just want to come and see some cool action sequences and stuff like that. But you also have those people that they really want is all the comic book fans, all they really want is to have at least a bit of consistency as far as tying back into the actual comics, having some type of connection to where the uh, where the comic books kind of took off. And it does show a little bit that they took a little bit of care as far as this movie went. I feel like it appeals to both the casual superhero movie fan, and to those that are comic book fans. You'll be able to get into this movie relatively well, and they took good care of that as far as showing off that they took the time to research this movie. It wasn't it wasn't made out to be this like super political, super uh, pro black movie, which surprises me that a lot of people were saying that like, oh, this is like a pro black film and it's is anti white. I was like, no, it's not that at all. They do have. I'll admit that they do have a couple of characters in this movie that can be can be kind of perceived as the type of person that's anti-white, but I mean that's what makes those characters villains is that uh, they aren't looking to be equals. They're looking to kind of take over the world, pretty much. Um, I think that was like one of the things that they did really well was they showed that contrast, and it was good enough to the point where you could see that this was coming and that this was going to happen. Um, but I will say that this movie definitely had one of the best villains I've seen in a Marvel cinematic movie, in Eric Killmonger, and I really enjoyed Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of him. It was like I feel like with a lot of the villains in the movie in the cinematic universe, it they never really give them a chance to kind of give a bit of backstory behind some of them. So it's like they're just kind of thrown in, and it's like, hey, I'm the villain now. Okay, there's no build up to this. It's just kind of, hey, this is where we're going with this, and you're just gonna have to accept that this is the way that this is going. And I feel like that kind of takes away from it, away from the film, because it's like if I'm looking at somebody else the entire time as like, hey, this is the person I'm supposed to be paying attention to, and I don't know what their motivations are. I like, granted, a lot of them do have interesting characters that they've developed in those movies. Like Thor Ragnarok, for instance, with Hela. I thought she was incredible, but it was like she barely got any screen time in that movie. So it was like, this is the person I'm supposed to pay attention to. I don't want to root for her to win, but I have no type of animosity towards her to make me think, oh yeah, she's the villain. She's the one I don't want to win. But I have to say that with this one, I kind of liked the fact that his character really made you like doubt who you wanted to actually win. Like I think I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, but let me give you guys a bit of backstory behind the movie at least. Uh, so basically, if any of you guys have seen Civil War, if you haven't already, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers here. But in Captain America: Civil War, the Black Panthers, uh, the Black Panther T'Challa, his father T'Chaka, ends up getting killed uh, in the movie. So this movie, the Black Panther, the movie takes place. Believe it's a little while after Civil War. So I don't know if they have like a timeline to say how long it was, but it does take place after Civil War. So it was cool to see that type of continuation. So it's basically uh, T'Challa travels back home to take his rightful spot on the throne. So it's it's more of a where is basically his story of kind of becoming a leader in a way. So you get to see where he ends up going as far as as far as like how he becomes the true Black Panther, because like he just kind of accepts the power on his own in Civil War. He wasn't really rightfully given the powers of the Black Panther. If you guys don't know anything about the origins of the Black Panther, or how the Black Panther gets its powers, um, you you can't just become the Black Panther on your own uh, by just donning the suit or whatever. You have to go through a trial. In the comic books, it's a little different compared to how they portrayed it in the movie, because in the comics, uh, in order to become the Black Panther, uh, you first have to go through through, I think it was like a trial run or something like that. Like you have to run through this temple, or actually no, it was you have to. In order to become the Black Panther, you have to fight like 5 or 6 of the best warriors in the Wakandan tribe, out of the Wakandan tribes, and then if you are successful in combat, then you have to. If you're successful in combat, then you end up going to the temple of the Panther God, and you have to maneuver through the temple. Then they require you to devour the heart-shaped herb, which gives you the powers of the panther. Which, if you've watched the film, you've seen that they do reference the heart-shaped herb and stuff like that. So that was cool that they kept that going. But they also they once you devour the heart-shaped herb, it's sort of like only those who are worthy of the power of the Black Panther are able to devour the herb and still survive, because you can end up dying eating devouring the herb in order to get the powers of the panther. So if you don't if once you try to do that and it backfires, uh, it kind of puts you at a disadvantage. It can kill you, it can put you in a coma, that type of thing. So it was cool to see that they had some type of reference to that. And with that, uh, they they introduced Killmonger into the film, which was definitely interesting because I was interested I was interested to see who they were going to bring in as the villain, because they had already introduced Ulysses Claw. If you guys know anything about the Black Panther, uh, Ulysses Claw is the Black Panther's uh, one of his greatest enemies. As far as in the comic books, I would say he's one of his biggest arch enemies. And they do make a reference to this as far as as far as the movie goes. Ulysses Claw, which is his actual name. Um, he at one point he ends up meeting someone from Wakanda that becomes a traitor to the tribe, uh, and kind of gives them and kind of tells him like, hey, they have this special type of metal there called vibranium, which is one of the strongest metals in the Marvel universe, that he ends up trying to get his hands on, because he knows that it's worth a lot of money. And if you have vibranium, you can make a lot of money off of it. So someone ends up betraying the tribe, and he ends up helping Claw get in and steal a chunk of vibranium, and also ends up killing a bunch of people along the way. Uh, in the comic books, Claw is the one that kills T'Challa's father, T'Chaka, but they ended up changing this in the actual films. But as far as they do end up keeping the part about the traders and stuff like that, but it takes on sort of a different takes on sort of a different turn in a way, because they do end up fighting. They do end up kind of trying to tie everything together. It works somewhat, because they want you to kind of feel connected to it, because they kind of tie it to our world in a way. Uh, because in the initial comic book, Eric's father is the one that that be, betrays the kingdom and the tribe, and he I believe he ends up dying in the conflict. But as after finding out about the fact that he betrayed them, uh, when T'Challa takes over Wakanda, he ends up banishing Eric and the rest of his family, because of the fact that they're tied to this guy who kind of betrayed them. So he they do kind of keep that story somewhat but instead of Eric being a a um, a person that was born in Wakanda, they change it to that he was born in America, but they still keep the part about his father being a traitor. And I don't want to say too much else beyond that, because it might spoil a little bit for people uh, that have not seen the movie yet. But it it was definitely interesting to see. So if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend that you go see it. But as far as I can say, um, they did have a lot of really nice quotable lines, I can say, out of this movie. Um, I enjoyed myself throughout. If I have any complaints about this movie, one of the biggest complaints that I have is that I feel like I don't know if I liked the ending that much. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but like, we all know how most of these movies end. The villain dies and that type of thing. But I feel like I would have enjoyed the movie a little more had the villain survived at the end, because I feel like I would have enjoyed it a little more. Because I feel like it could have continued. We could have continued this sort of rivalry, and I I just feel like killing the villain off in this movie just kind of ruined my enjoyment just a little bit, if at all. But I think overall I did still enjoy that movie. But if I have to if I have to take any type of points off, it's because of that. And I feel like that's one of the worst things about the cinematic universe, is that they tend to kill off all of their villains, and it's like, what happened? Like, what happens if you kill off some of these people that are like some of the most integral people to uh, the actual comics, to the actual characters themselves? And I think there's a lot of stuff that can be uh, a lot of stuff that can happen throughout sequels and stuff like that, but kind of removing those characters out of the films just makes it harder to continue. So it makes me wonder what's going to happen now, because obviously, because the movie has been pretty successful. So I highly doubt that they're not gonna want to continue this movie at all. They're not gonna want to, create a sequel to it, especially knowing that they can make money off of this now. So it's going to be interesting to see, how they're going to continue this, where they're going to go with this, and uh, I'll say overall, to kind of tie this up and kind of cut this off because I don't want to get too long winded, but I have to say that the movie. I really enjoyed this movie. Uh, I highly recommend that you go see it, especially if you're a fan of Marvel or you're a fan of like seeing kind of. I'll say that they aren't really well known characters, getting recognition and getting the chance to kind of have their turn in the spotlight, because I feel like that's one of the best parts about the cinematic universe is that we're starting to see uh, a lot of characters get the opportunity to kind of show off and get the chance to be shown off, whereas like you normally hear about like superheroes like Captain America, Spider-Man, and uh, even the Hulk, Thor. Like you hear about them a lot, but you don't hear about a lot of the other characters in the Marvel universe, like the Black Panther or Ant Man and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that they're taking the chances to show these other characters off. So I'm happy to see this happening. I want to see more of this happen. Uh, so I'm gonna pass it off to you guys. What were your thoughts about the movie? What characters would you like to see get this type of treatment or get these types of movies and stuff like that? Who do you want to see next? Because we all know that after we've got uh, Deadpool coming out later, Deadpool 2 coming out later this year. Uh, we have the Infinity War Avengers film coming. So what what is going to be the next big thing? Who do you think is coming next? Because we know that after this they're going to have the next phase, which is phase 4. Who's going to be the next hero to get their debut? So I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. So go ahead and leave your comments down in the comment section, and as always, like, comment, subscribe. Uh, I'll be putting the links to my Twitch page, uh, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So you be able to connect with me at any point in time whenever you guys have want to have any type of topics, conversation, and stuff like that. If you guys want to come and check me out when I live stream, you'll be able to do that. Beyond that.